Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap, and I've got the brand new Samsung Galaxy Z Flip here, although obviously being English and in the UK I call it the Z Flip, but we'll stick with Z Flip for now. So I actually bought this myself. This is not a review sample. I actually went on Samsung's website and paid £1,300 for the privilege of getting it today so I could do a full unboxing for you guys and also put it side by side with the Samsung Galaxy Fold. This isn't a replacement. I'm still expecting we'll see a Fold 2 later in the year. But if you do want to buy a folding device right now, you're pretty much limited to the Galaxy Fold, the Galaxy Flip, the pretty terrible Motorola Razr, and probably whatever Huawei is working on in terms of their version 2 of the Mate X, but we'll come back to that in another video. It's a fairly unassuming box actually. We have the Galaxy Z Flip name on the side, and we have this little cutout, this Z cutout on the front, which actually matches the color of the phone you've bought. So I've gone with a mirror purple, and then slide that out, and we have a nice big Flip logo on the front, and then inside we have the phone itself. You can see this is a brand new model. So I've got the mirror purple one here, but it also comes in mirror black and mirror gold, but that's only in some markets. I think this is the best color though. So take a good look at that now, because it's never going to be this clean again. I promise you it's going to be a fingerprint magnet in about 30 seconds. So let's go for the inaugural Fold. Beautiful. So as you can see, once it's folded, it basically fits in your palm. It is actually quite chunky. If I do just bring in my Galaxy Fold for a second, you'll see that it's a tiny bit thicker when closed than the Fold, although it's not that much different, but you can see in terms of sort of the height, it's about half the size. I don't really know what the benefit is of having a shorter phone that's a little bit thicker. Perhaps it would fit more easily in a jacket pocket or in women's jeans, which tend to be a little bit shorter. This may work out quite well, but it certainly is one of the most compact phones you can buy because obviously it, well, folds in half, but then once it's unfolded, you get a 21.9, so nearly 22 by 9 screen, which is actually the tallest phone screen on the market right now. In the box, just like the Galaxy Fold, we get this Premier Service leaflet, so you actually have 24-hour customer support, and also, most importantly, a 1-year Samsung screen protection guarantee. It's not free, it will cost you £99 here in the UK, but if you do accidentally break the screen on the Flip, which may happen, we'll have to see how durable it is in the long term, then it will only cost you, in the UK at least, £100 to replace for the first one. After that, you'll actually have to replace the whole thing yourself. Then we've got some fancy text from Samsung telling you how awesome it is and making you feel better for paying £1,300. And then under that, we have the charger. This is obviously the UK adapter. It is a fairly slow 15-watt charger, which is actually the same speed as the Galaxy Fold. This is also 15-watt charging, which is fine. And actually, because the Flip's battery isn't that big, something we'll talk about in a second, it shouldn't take too long to charge. We also get a USB-A to USB-C adapter, a pair of AKG tuned earphones, the USB-C charging cable. We also get a SIM ejector, some paperwork, and most importantly, a case, which is actually split in two, one for the top half and one for the bottom. It's just a simple clear plastic case, but given the price of this thing, it's better safe than sorry. Just quickly guys, a big thank you to Audible for sponsoring this video. Taking the train into London or flying to events around the world, putting my headphones in, cancelling out the outside world, and just enjoying a good book is so nice. Like Lock and Key, which I'm listening to at the moment. So get involved and start listening with a 30-day Audible trial. You can choose one audiobook and 2 Audible originals absolutely free. Plus you get 1 free audiobook credit every month. So visit audible.com/techchap or text techchap to 500 500 and give Audible a try. So I've got all the boring setup stuff out of the way. The first thing I want to show you is actually the folding screen that uses an ultra thin glass screen compared to plastic, which you usually get like we have on the Galaxy Fold. It's actually pretty incredible just how subtle that is. If you run your finger down it, you can feel it, but then compared to the Galaxy Fold, you can feel it much more easily. So we get a 6.7-inch 22 by 9 screen, which makes it an incredibly tall screen. And while you can use it one-handed because it's not particularly wide, you will need to do some finger gymnastics if you want to reach to the top of the phone. Now around the edge, we have a slightly raised plastic bezel, just like the Galaxy Fold. Although unlike the Fold, we don't have that huge camera cutout in the corner. Instead, we just get a small hole punch selfie camera. And we also get these new little screen cap protectors, something Samsung introduced on the Fold when they revised it after it initially broke. And we get that here on the Flip. But as well as that, we also get this new fiber shield on the hinge, which you can't actually see, I can't show you, but it's supposed to help improve durability and prevent dirt getting in. So I'm actually quite confident this will be fairly durable. Samsung say they've tested the flipping motion for 200,000 uses, so that should keep me going for a while. But it does feel really nice to use. And actually, unlike the Fold, which can only be used fully open or closed, the hinge on the Flip actually allows you to use it at different angles, more like a laptop, which means we can then use it in flex mode, which is something I'll show you in just a second. So by now, you're already pretty familiar with the Flip. There's loads of videos out there, but just to give you a quick rundown, this is using a Snapdragon 855 Plus processor, which is last year's chip rather than the new 865, along with 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage. We also get Android 10 and Samsung's One UI 2.1, compared to the Fold, which is still on Android 9, which is kind of irritating. And powering everything, we have a 3300 mAh battery, which is pretty small actually. I'm kind of concerned about that, but I'll let you guys know how I get on with it in my full review. So while it is a small battery cell, partially because they've actually had to split it between both sides of the Flip, on the plus side, when it comes to battery life at least, we only get a Full HD Plus resolution, and it's only a 60 Hz refresh rate. So it's not Quad HD Plus, it's not 120 Hz like we see on the new Galaxy S20 phones. So in many ways, this is kind of like a 2019 phone when it comes to specs. Looking around the phone, we get a USB-C port on the bottom, along with a speaker grill. On the right side, we have the power button, which doubles as a fingerprint reader, which is actually the same reader as the Galaxy Fold, although this is much easier to press because your sort of thumb just rests there anyway. We also get face unlocking through the selfie camera. We do get stereo speakers though. We get the bottom firing speaker as well as the earpiece speaker, and it's AKG tuned, so it sounds pretty good. And then on the back, we have this dual lens camera setup with a main lens and an ultra wide. They're both 12 megapixels and use the same sensor as the new Galaxy S20 phones, but unfortunately there is no telephoto lens. And then we have this little guy, which if I fold it closed, you'll see pops up with the time, the date, battery percentage, and actually something that a lot of people don't realize, but it is a touch screen, so you can swipe between different notifications. And also, if you double tap the power button, it pops up as a viewfinder, so you can actually take sort of selfies of yourself using the good rear cameras, or indeed the person you're taking a picture of can also see themselves if they squint very hard, because it is a tiny 1.1 inch AMOLED screen. I really wish it was bigger. It's such a cool idea, but it's so small, so for anything other than checking the time, notification, or maybe a close-up selfie, it's not that useful. I'd love something bigger here. So that's the cover screen, and then of course we have the main 6.7 inch screen inside. Now compared to the Galaxy Fold, where we obviously have two much bigger screens, there's a 7.3 inch sort of squarish 3:2 aspect ratio on the inside, which is much more of a tablet experience. But then we also have this 4.6 inch cover screen, which is obviously much bigger than the tiny little cover screen we get on the Flip. So in that regard, you can use this both as a regular phone, albeit a little bit small, and then obviously when you need to, you could open it up and use the full tablet experience. So I guess in terms of flexibility and productivity, due to the sheer amount of screen space we get in the Fold, I think it's much more of a pro device, whereas the Flip seems more like a stylish accessory. What about you though? Which one would you go for? The Galaxy Flip or the Galaxy Fold? Let me know in the poll at the top right, and also let me know why in the comments below. But it is actually worth mentioning that the Fold is significantly more expensive. It'll set you back about £1,900 or $2,000. So this is about 600 more, but it is also a slightly higher spec. For example, the Fold actually has 12 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage versus 8 and 256 on the Flip. And also this does support 5G. So let me jump into a few apps to show you what it's actually like to use this day to day. So obviously when you're watching videos, you're going to want to use this landscape. So I shoot my videos in the slightly wider aspect ratio of 2:1, which is something a lot of YouTubers do these days, but you still do get a little bit of pillar boxing either side of the screen. Although of course you can always pinch in to fill the screen, but then that does crop a little bit at the top and bottom. But when you are full screen like this, it really is a very cool and cinematic experience. However, a traditional 16:9 video does leave quite chunky black bars either side, but I guess the benefit is nothing's been cut out by the hole punch unless you fully zoom in. So if I put them both side by side, you can see the Fold does still give you a much better YouTube experience. There's a lot more screen being taken up with the video. However, if we then jump into Netflix, we've got a bit of Narcos here. The aspect ratio of the show does take up more screen space on the Flip. So between the two, given how much smaller and more comfortable to hold the Flip is, I do really like it. Let's jump into a bit of Instagram, which is where I spend about half my life at the moment, it seems, well, between this and YouTube. And you can see the real benefit of this extra tall screen. And unlike the Galaxy Fold, which actually has issues with Instagram stories because it cuts off the top and bottom, there's no problem on here. Although this can sometimes have the opposite problem, because if I was going to post this as a story, because it's so tall, a whole bunch of this will be cut off on most other people's phones. So make sure you do then reduce your story size a little bit like that. But if you do want to see more behind the scenes tech and more about my life, then make sure you do follow me on Instagram at the Tech Chap. Alright, so we're 10 minutes in, let's change things up a little bit. And I fired up Call of Duty Mobile on the Galaxy Z Flip, and as you can see, it's filled up the entire screen. There's no issues with letterboxing, pillar boxing. It's not stretched or anything, even with this slightly peculiar aspect ratio. Folding it doesn't really do anything except make it incredibly difficult to play and actually very strange to look at. The only thing that's really missing is maybe a high refresh rate screen. And of course we don't have the latest Snapdragon 865 processor, but as you can see, even in this really graphically intense game, performance is top notch. But then switching back to the Galaxy Fold, and even though we have this little bit cut out at the top left, I think I might actually prefer playing on this just because of the bigger tablet screen. Then we have what Samsung are calling flex mode, because of course you can use the phone fully open like this, and you also have the tile or cover screen on the front, which, well, you can't really do much with at all. But because of the hinge, we can then actually use it like this, flex mode, and it kind of acts as its own little stand tripod thing. So if I open up, say, the camera app, you can see that it actually fills the top half of the screen with the viewfinder, and then you have the controls on the bottom. But if I pick it up and unfold it, then again we go back to full screen. And you can see just how seamless that transition is. Why is that useful? Well, for one thing, it means I could have a video call with someone like this and not actually have to hold the phone or anything, which is quite nice. I could also maybe do a video hyperlapse or something. The camera is probably the best example of it right now, although some other apps like YouTube are optimized for it, but right now, the vast majority of apps don't really do anything at all when you flip and go into flex mode. Let me show you a little bit more about the camera. And as I say, we have the 12 megapixel main lens and the 12 megapixel ultra wide, but no telephoto. We do have a couple of new features, including single take. Here's one I made earlier, and you can see it's taken a video, black and white shot, different sort of filters. This one's got a nice bokeh background. And essentially it means you don't have to take one of everything individually yourself. You just do one single take, and then you get everything you need. Unlike the Galaxy S20 range though, we don't get any 8K video support on the Z Flip, which isn't surprising really given this is using last year's processor, but we do get some interesting options in terms of aspect ratios, including 9:16, which would be really useful for Instagram stories, or even the full 22:9 aspect ratio of the Z Flip. But like previous Samsung phones, we do also get 4K front-facing video from the selfie camera. Also, if you prefer, you can actually turn off this tabletop layout so I can then go back to the camera, and then folding the screen doesn't do anything. That's turned off that flex mode. Okay, last but not least, if you have just bought yourself a Z Flip, let me give you a couple of my favorite tips to sort of improve the user experience. So firstly, jump into the settings and then go to display and then turn on dark mode. This should help improve battery life a little bit because it's using an AMOLED screen and it is now fully integrated into it because of the latest software. Then scroll down to advanced features and turn on reduce animations. This will make things feel just a little bit faster. Then I'd recommend heading to the navigation bar and changing the navigation buttons to full screen gestures, but then you can actually get that little bit of screen real estate back at the bottom, and because it's Android 10, we can actually now swipe in from the edge to go back, which is so much easier than having to swipe up from the bottom all the time, particularly on this taller phone. So that was a lot to take in, but I really hope you guys enjoyed this unboxing and a bit of a walkthrough of the new Samsung Galaxy Z Flip. Make sure you do hit that subscribe button though, because I'll have full reviews, comparisons, battery tests, loads of other great content coming soon, as well as videos on the upcoming Galaxy S20 range. But what do you make of the Z Flip, and do you think it's worth £1,300? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time right here on the Tech Chap. Again, a big thank you to Audible for sponsoring this video. Check out their awesome range of audiobooks, podcasts, and Audible originals by signing up for a 30-day trial at audible.com/techchap, or you can text TechChap to 500-500. And then you can choose one audiobook and 2 Audible originals absolutely free. Plus you get a free audiobook credit every month. So why not give Audible a try today?